Long Island medium Theresa Caputo has made a big decision for herself. She has announced that she wants to marry her new husband, and the wedding will be held in the fall. Theresa also said that she would honor all the guests there and want to have a memorable celebration. However, Theresa's decision did not win the hearts of anyone in the family. The family members are not willing to accept her choice, and from there the conflict began. Theresa Caputo, better known as the Long Island medium, had always lived her life with a bold heart and a fearless spirit. She had built a career by speaking to the dead, comforting grieving families, and sharing her extraordinary gift with the world. But now, at this stage of her life, Theresa was ready to embrace something entirely different: love, commitment, and a new beginning with her new husband, Anthony. It was late summer when Theresa made the announcement to her family. They were gathered around her dining room table, where countless readings, conversations, and memories had once taken place. "I've made a big decision," Theresa said with her signature New York accent, her perfectly manicured hands resting on the table. "Anthony and I are getting married this fall. It's going to be a beautiful wedding, and I want every single one of you there. I want to honor my family, my friends, and our guests with a celebration no one will forget." Her words hung in the air, warm and heartfelt. But instead of smiles, applause, or even polite nods, the room filled with uneasy silence. Her daughter, Victoria, was the first to speak. "Ma, you're rushing this. It feels, I don't know, like you're trying to prove something instead of thinking about us." Her son, Larry Jr., crossed his arms. "It's not about proving anything, Vic. But honestly, Mom, it's too soon. You just finalized everything with Dad not that long ago. And now you're marrying someone new? It feels like you're replacing what we had." Theresa's heart tightened. She had expected hesitation, but not outright rejection. "Listen to me," she pleaded, her voice trembling between strength and vulnerability. "This isn't about replacing anyone. I loved your father, and I'll always respect the years we had together. But I can't stop my life. I found happiness again, and I want you all to be part of it." But her words didn't land as she hoped. Her siblings, cousins, even her close friends, all seemed divided. Some felt she deserved to move forward, while others whispered that the timing wasn't right, that the marriage would fracture the family further. The conflict deepened when planning began. Theresa envisioned a rustic fall wedding on Long Island, surrounded by amber leaves, pumpkin accents, and candlelit tables. She wanted it to be warm, celebratory, and filled with love. But the more she planned, the more resistance she faced. "Don't expect me to sit there and smile," her cousin Angela muttered during one heated conversation. "This feels like a betrayal of family traditions. You're making it all about you." Theresa's patience cracked. "Of course it's about me. It's my wedding. When did it become a crime for me to want happiness?" Anthony tried to calm her down, gently holding her hand. "Theresa, maybe we can keep it small, just us and a few close friends. Let the family come around in their own time." But Theresa shook her head. "No. If I give in now, it'll always be like this. They'll never respect my choices. I want to stand proud, show them that this is my life, my love, and my moment." As fall approached, the divide in the family only widened. Invitations were sent out, but responses trickled in slowly. Some outright declined. Others said they'd think about it. Theresa found herself lying awake at night, torn between the excitement of marrying Anthony and the sadness of losing her family's support. On the morning of the wedding, the autumn sky was painted gold and crimson, the air crisp with the scent of fallen leaves. Theresa stood in her bridal gown, her hair perfectly styled, her makeup immaculate. Yet her heart raced with uncertainty. Would her family show up? Would her dream of a joyous celebration crumble into an empty ceremony? Slowly, as the guests began arriving, she scanned the crowd. Friends hugged her, Anthony's relatives cheered her on, and strangers congratulated her. Then, to her surprise, she saw Victoria walking down the aisle, not in a bridesmaid dress, but in her regular clothes, still hesitant, still conflicted. "Ma," Victoria whispered when she reached her. I don't agree with everything, but you're my mother. And I love you. I can't let you walk down this aisle alone." Behind her, Larry Jr. followed, his expression softening. "I'm not ready to accept everything yet, Mom, but I'll stand by you today." Tears welled in Theresa's eyes as her children finally took their place beside her. The rest of the family didn't all show up, but in that moment, Theresa realized that love wasn't about convincing everyone. It was about living her truth and allowing others the space to catch up. As she and Anthony exchanged vows under the golden autumn canopy, Theresa felt the presence of something greater. Maybe it was the spirit she always spoke to, or maybe it was simply the spirit of resilience. Either way, she knew this day would be remembered, not just as a wedding, but as a declaration of her right to happiness. The family conflict wasn't over. Healing would take time, but Theresa had taken a bold step, proving once again that she wasn't afraid to follow her heart, even when the living resisted her as much as the dead ever had. And with that, the Long Island medium began a new chapter of her life. However, the bright Long Island afternoon carried a gentle breeze as Theresa Caputo prepared her reading room for another session. The room was filled with soft golden light, candles flickering, and a few comforting family photos placed around to create warmth. Theresa had already sensed that today's client was carrying a very particular energy, one of longing, nostalgia, and unspoken questions. When the door opened, in walked Jonathan Lipnicki, the child star most people remembered from Stuart Little and Jerry Maguire. Now an adult, Jonathan carried a calm, mature presence, but behind his smile there was a heaviness he couldn't quite hide. He greeted Theresa warmly, but she could instantly feel his energy vibrating with anticipation. "Jonathan, thank you so much for coming," Theresa said, her signature Long Island accent making the moment feel both grounding and comforting. "I gotta tell ya, even before you got here, I kept feeling this grandmotherly presence. Somebody's been waiting to talk to you." Jonathan's eyes widened slightly. "That's actually why I'm here," he admitted. "My grandmother, she passed away when I was still pretty young. She was one of the closest people to me. I never got the chance to tell her how much she meant to me, and it's something that's always been with me." Theresa nodded, closing her eyes for a moment as she let the energy wash over her. "Honey, she's already here. She's strong, like a firecracker. And she's saying, 'Jonathan, don't you worry, I've been with you all along.' She keeps showing me the image of a little boy on a movie set, surrounded by people, but she's standing right behind him. That's you, isn't it?" Jonathan let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "Yeah, that's me on the set of Stuart Little. I always felt like she was watching me somehow. Even though she wasn't physically there, I felt her presence." Theresa smiled knowingly. "Well, she's saying you weren't wrong. She's Logan. She says she was proud of you when you were in that little movie with a mouse. She says, 'That's my boy.' And she loved how even though the world saw you as a child star, you never lost your kindness. She keeps talking about your heart, Jonathan. That's what she was most proud of." Tears welled up in Jonathan's eyes. That's exactly how she was. Always reminding me that being a good person mattered more than fame, more than success. I've carried that with me. Theresa tilted her head, listening carefully as though someone were whispering in her ear. "She's bringing up something about a necklace, or maybe a locket. She's showing me jewelry with a picture inside." Jonathan froze. I have her locket. It has a picture of her and my grandfather together. I keep it in a small box in my drawer. I could never bring myself to wear it, but I always look at it when I feel lost." "That's her way of letting you know she sees it," Theresa said gently. "She wants you to wear it once in a while, close to your heart. She says it'll give you strength when you're doubting yourself. She doesn't want you to hide away from your own emotions anymore." Jonathan wiped a tear from his cheek. That sounds exactly like something she would say. She always encouraged me to be strong, but to feel things deeply. To never shut down. Theresa took a deep breath, her eyes misting as she continued. "Now she's talking about music. She's showing me a piano, or maybe a song that you connect with her." Jonathan smiled faintly through his tears. She used to play the piano. There's this old song she'd hum when I was upset. It calmed me down every single time. After she passed, I found myself humming it when I was nervous before auditions. It became like a secret way of holding her with me. Theresa clapped her hands together lightly. That's it. That's her validation. She says whenever you hum that tune, she's right there, standing beside you, calm as ever. She's so proud that you remembered something so small but so important. For a moment, the room was silent except for the soft crackle of a candle. Jonathan took a long, deep breath. Theresa, this means more than I can explain. I've always struggled with the idea of whether she knew how much I loved her. I was just a kid when she passed. I never got to say it enough. Theresa leaned forward, her voice soft but firm. Listen to me, Jonathan. She knows. She's shouting it right now. Of course I knew. She says, don't you ever doubt it. You were my light, my little star, and I carried your love with me every single day. She doesn't want you to feel guilt or regret. She wants you to live your life with the same warmth she gave you. Jonathan covered his face for a moment, letting the emotions pour out. It wasn't just sadness. It was release, comfort, a healing he hadn't realized he needed so badly. After he composed himself, Theresa continued softly, she's given me a final message before she steps back. She says, Jonathan, you don't have to keep proving yourself to the world. Just be who you are. That's enough. That's always been enough. Jonathan smiled through his tears, his voice trembling. That's exactly what I needed to hear. Theresa reached across the table, giving his hand a gentle squeeze. Honey, that's why Spirit brought you here today. You were ready to hear it. As the session ended, Jonathan felt lighter, almost as if the invisible weight he had carried for decades had finally been lifted. Walking out of Theresa's reading room, he whispered to himself, I love you, Granny, knowing now, without a shadow of doubt, that she had heard him and had always been listening. And in that moment, the actor who once stole hearts as a little boy in Hollywood felt like a grandson again, deeply connected to the woman who had shaped his soul. However, the cameras rolled in as the lights dimmed in the small but bustling studio on Long Island. It was the highly anticipated premiere of Season 5 of Long Island Medium, but this time, the producers had leaned into what audiences secretly loved the most, the emotional roller coaster Theresa Caputo put people through. They even joked about it in the season's tagline, Season 5, but it's just Theresa making people cry. Theresa, in her iconic blonde hair, nails perfectly polished, and her larger-than-life personality, strutted into the first episode scene with a grin that already hinted she had something big in store. The producers followed her with handheld cameras, capturing every laugh, every pause, and, of course, every tear. People always ask me, Theresa, why do you make everyone cry? She said, looking straight into the camera with a mischievous smirk. And I say, honey, it ain't me. It's Spirit. I just deliver the messages. The first reading of the season took place in a cozy living room in Queens. A family of 3 sisters, all in their 40s, sat on the couch nervously waiting for Theresa to start. They had lost their mother 2 years prior, and the grief still hung heavy in the air. Theresa clapped her hands together. All right, listen. I'm not here to sugarcoat. Spirit's already showing me one thing. Did one of you ladies fight with your mom the night before she passed? The room went silent. One sister gasped, pressing her hand to her chest. Tears welled instantly. That's me, the oldest sister admitted, her voice breaking. I told her I was too busy to come visit that night. Theresa leaned in gently. Your mother's here, sweetheart. And she's not upset. She's telling me she knows you loved her more than anything. She says she left you with the biggest guilt because she wanted you to learn that love doesn't need perfection. She forgives you. The woman broke down sobbing, grabbing tissues. The other 2 sisters cried as well, hugging her. The camera zoomed in on the tears, capturing every emotional drop. Theresa, without missing a beat, turned to the second sister. And you, why do I see a necklace? A silver chain? Did you sleep wearing your mom's jewelry after she passed? The sister's jaw dropped.
Yes.
I slept with her necklace under my pillow for a whole year. More tears. More tissues. Theresa nodded. She says every single night you did that. She kissed you on the forehead. That was her way of saying goodnight. By this point, the entire crew behind the cameras had misty eyes. Even the sound guy had to step away. The next stop in the season was a surprise reading in a Brooklyn cafe. Theresa walked in like a whirlwind, and within seconds, she locked eyes with a young man sipping his coffee. "Excuse me," she said, pointing her nails at him. "Do you know a man named Anthony?" Spirits screaming Anthony at me. The man's face paled. "That was my brother," he whispered. "He died in a car accident." Theresa slid into the seat across from him. "Your brother's here. He wants to thank you for holding his hand in the hospital. You kept saying, 'Don't leave me, don't leave me.'" He heard it, and he didn't feel pain. He only felt love. The young man's tears fell straight into his coffee cup. Other customers in the cafe froze, watching this stranger sob openly in front of Theresa. She reached across the table, taking his hand. "And another thing, why do I feel like you wear his jacket still?" The man nodded quickly. "Every winter. I can't let it go." Theresa smiled.
Good. Don't.
"He says that jacket keeps him close to you. That's why it still smells like him." The cafe was silent, except for sniffles. Even people who didn't know the man started crying into their lattes. Episode after episode, Season 5 leaned heavily into these moments. Theresa would walk into nail salons, grocery stores, or even yoga studios, and before long, someone was in tears, hugging her, thanking her for reconnecting them with a loved one. The show became known less for its setups and more for these raw, unfiltered human emotions. There was the firefighter's widow who cried so hard she had to step outside, clutching Theresa's hand. The teenage girl who burst into tears when Theresa said her late father was proud of her getting into college. The tough-looking biker who bawled in a diner when Theresa told him his brother was still riding in spirit beside him. By mid-season, fans were joking online. "Forget comedy shows if you need a good cry, just put on Long Island Medium's Season 5. Memes popped up with Theresa holding a tissue box instead of her usual Long Island coffee cup. The season finale was perhaps the most emotional yet. Theresa held a large group reading in a community center packed with people. Spirit messages came one after another, faster than she could keep up. Every corner of the room had someone crying. A young mother wept as Theresa described her miscarried baby's spirit growing up in heaven. An elderly man shook with sobs when Theresa relayed his late wife's message that she still danced with him in the living room at night. By the end of the night, the camera panned across the crowd. Nearly everyone was in tears. Some were tears of grief, some of healing, but all deeply cathartic. Theresa stood in the middle, exhausted yet glowing, her heart open. She looked straight into the camera one last time. "People ask why I make everyone cry. And I'll tell you why. Crying isn't weakness. It's love leaving the body in a different way. Spirit heals us when we let go. If I can help one person release that pain, then I've done my job." The credits rolled over a montage of crying faces, tissues, hugs, and laughter through tears. Season 5 had lived up to its tagline, "It's just Theresa making people cry." And fans loved every minute of it. Hello, lovely viewers. Welcome to my channel. I am Mina. Hope your day is so well. If you liked the video, don't forget to subscribe the channel.